Բարև սիրելի հեռուստատողներ, սկսում ենք Դավիթյան Մարիամյան կրթական հաստատության մեր ծրագիրը։ Այսօրվա մեր ծրագիրը շատ յուրահատուկ մեր ծրագիր է, որտեղ ձեզի պիտի ներկայացնեմ երկու շատ սիրելի եւ հարգված անձնավորություններ, Glendale Unified School District-ի ուրեմն superintendent-ը եւ իրեն օգնականը, որը իհարկե պատճառն է, որ այսօր այս երկու անձնավորությունները մեր հյուրն են, պատճառն էլ այն է, որ կուզեմ ձեզի ծանոթացնել մեր ապակա superintendent-ին, որը արդեն ձեզնից որոշները իմանում եք, որ հունիսի վերջին դոկտոր Escalante-ն ուրեմն ինքը հանգուցչան է կոչվում, ինքը արդեն իրեն գործից հրաժարում է եւ իր տեղը պիտի նոր superintendent պիտի սկսի իր աշխատանքը շարունակելու համար։ Եվ այդ անձնավորությունը դոկտոր Richard Sheehan-ն է։ Ուրեմն, ինչպես իմանում եք, Glendale Unified School District-ի այս շրջանը Glendale քաղաքում մենք ունենք մոտավորապես 10,000 հոգից ավելի հայ երեխեք։ Եվ մի հատ այն պատճառներից, որ ես միշտ Glendale Unified School District-ի արդիվ եւ իրենց աշխատանքների արդիվ հետաքրքրված եմ եւ նաեւ ամեն առիթից օգտվելով աշխատում եմ այդ մեծ կազմակերպության իրենց գործունեությունը եւ իրենց տարած աշխատանքները մեր ծրագրերի մեջ ձեզ ներկայացնեմ, որովհետեւ այդ կազմակերպությունը իրեն գործերով եւ իրեն աշխատանքով մի հատ շատ մեծ կարեւոր գործ է անում մեր գաղութի համար եւ այն էլ մեր աշակերտներին այս միջոցում իհարկե մեր հայ աշակերտներին, որը 10,000 հոգից ավել աշակերտներ են, իրենց կրթական խնդիրները այդ կազմակերպչության հովանի տակ էր անցնում։ Եվ դրա համար կարծում եմ մեր գաղութի համար կարևոր է, որ միշտ ծանոթ լինենք, մոտիկից հետևենք այդ կազմակերպչության իրենց գործերը, ինչ է կատարվում եւ նաեւ եթե որևէ խնդիրներ ունենք, որևէ հարցեր ունենք, կարողանանք իմանանք որտեղ պիտի դիմենք, ումի հետ պիտի խոսենք։ Եվ մենք որպես Դավիթյան Մարիամյան կրթական հաստատություն տարիները, որ այս կազմակերպչության մոտիկից աշխատել ենք եւ օգտվել ենք իրենց ամեն օգնություններից եւ շատ մոտ կապեր ենք ունեցել իրանց հետ եւ որևէ ձեւով որևէ ժամանակ դժվարություն չենք ունեցել իրենց հետ։ Եվ ահա այսօր առիթը կա, որ ես մեր հարցազրույց պիտի ունենամ դոկտոր Michael Escalante-ի հետ, որ մեր ներկա superintendent-ն է եւ մեր գացող superintendent-ը, որ իր տեղը փոխարինելու է դոկտոր Richard Sheehan-ը։ Իհարկե անգլերենով պիտի խոսենք, եթե կարիք եղավ, այդ մեջտեղները պետք է լավ հայերեն մի քանի բառ ես կավելացնեմ։ So thank you very much, Dr. Escalante and Dr. Sheehan, accepting my invitation and joining to this very good program of Davidan Mariamyan, which you are very good aware of what we do, and for years we enjoyed the support of Glendale Unified School District. I know for the community, it's something which these days I'm sure everybody is talking about. It's about your retirement and who is going to replace you. And I think in our prior programs, we already introduced Dr. Sheehan, but it's good to have you here with us and talk about your views, talk about Dr. Escalante's retirement, talk about your future position, and what a good timing. I don't think that this is, anybody wants to be in your shoes these days, but I know it's a tough future, but I know that you are equipped to every experience and everything that you need to meet that challenge. So Dr. Escalante, let's first talk about your retirement. It's something that you announced a few months ago, and we are happy for retirement. I know that everybody is it's lucky to be retired in a time that they want to, and this is a good opportunity for you. But for us, for the community, losing you after all these years, it's not that happy occasion, but I know for your sake, we are all happy for you. So, Dr. Escalante, would you kind of make some comments about the retirement? And also, I want you to also introduce Dr. Sheehan to our community.
Well, thank you very much, Fahik. Very much appreciate. You know, this is probably my last opportunity to be on your show, and it's been a great, great partnership. So thank you for that invitation. Over the past 6.5 years, and they've been wonderful years, I've had really the great fortune to be superintendent of Glendale Unified School District, and it truly has been the high point of my career. And working with you and organizations like the D&M Foundation have just been an incredible blessing. Not every community understands how nice it is to have those kinds of relationships of organizations that reach out in a very positive way to support students. So I just have to say thank you before I say anything else. Yes, I announced to the board in December that I would be retiring at the end of the school year. And so I wanted to make sure that the board had a good opportunity to do a very thoughtful process about where they wanted to move the district from this year into next year. So with that, the formal announcement was made to the community in January, and the board took a great deal of time trying to figure out what would be the best way to find the best leader for our district. And we truly have been blessed over the years of having great superintendents. So the district wanted to do, first of all, is do what's referred to as an inside-out search. So they wanted to look within the organization to see if we had somebody who was qualified, because it's a big job being superintendent of Glendale Unified School District. You know, a $250 million budget, you know, 26,000 students and 3,000 employees. It's a huge responsibility, and taking on that responsibility really does take somebody special, and the board really did find somebody special in Dr. Richard Sheehan. Dr. Sheehan, I had met him at USC in one of the doctoral classes, and he was right away pointed out to me as someone who was very special and would be, you know, an outstanding superintendent. So we brought him in the school district as an assistant superintendent. He was very successful in the Covina Valley School District as somewhat what we would refer to as sort of an area superintendent in charge of a portion of the school district. So we brought him in as assistant superintendent of educational services, and he did an outstanding job. And after 2 years, less than 2 years, the board decided that they would make him deputy superintendent. So he was the backup to the superintendent anytime the superintendent was not available or in the district. So from that position, you know, Dick really had an opportunity to show that he could step up when tough things were happening in the district. And there were numerous occasions that I was called away to be at a specific event, and Dick had to stand up and make some tough decisions, and he showed that he could do that. So we're incredibly pleased that the district will, you know, we're kind of going through what we refer to as a seamless transition. And by that, Dick and I are working together to make sure that the organization doesn't move into some sort of imbalance and people are uncomfortable about the direction of the district. What we're doing is, you know, Dick and I work together to make decisions about what's going to happen this year as we close out the school year. But probably more importantly, Dick gets the chance to form the decisions that will move the district on beyond the June 30th date that I will be here. Yeah. So I will still be here in the community. I'll be teaching at the University of Southern California, hopefully, and you know, hopefully contributing in some other way to the community.
So you've been teaching in USC, right?
Correct. Over the past several years, I've always taught one class per year, but for next year, right now, we're talking about teaching more classes, and then also doing some work shepherding doctoral students through the dissertation process as well.
Well, we're not going to let you go, that's for sure. I know that you're living in Glendale, so we're going to still do a lot of things together. That's right. So Dr. Sheehan, welcome to D&M Foundation's first TV show, that's for sure. We are very delighted to have you with us. And for the last 2 years, as Dr. Escalante mentioned, we enjoyed working with you. And I can see that we will have a very, very good relationship in future. We have already experienced that for the last 2 years. But at this time, I would like you to introduce yourself to our viewers, those probably who don't know that well about you. So if you could kind of briefly explain your background and what you do right now in Glendale, and what is your job, and what is your feelings about to become a superintendent in Glendale.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. We appreciate our working relationship with the D&M Foundation, and I'm very humbled to be offered the position to follow such a fine leader as Dr. Escalante. For the last 3 years, we've worked as a team. Myself, Dr. Fundukian, Trosian, Dr. Garcia, Ms. Luke, and Dr. Lambert are the assistant superintendents and the core team that has worked together under the guidance of Dr. Escalante. And so that team is staying intact, minus Dr. Escalante. And he's just a phone call away. And
That's true.
so,
That's true.
He has been an outstanding leader and mentor and personal friend to all of us, and we're very appreciative of that. And I know working with you the past 2.5 years has been a pleasure, and the programs that the D&M Foundation provide our students is unmatched and unparalleled, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Personally, I am married with 3 boys. I have a 10th grade student and a 7th grade student and a 5th grade, all boys. I came from Covina Valley, where I was there for 17 years. I was a teacher in the Covina High School, also the head football coach. Was an athletic director, worked with a variety of sports, also coached wrestling and baseball. From there I went into administration, was a dean of students, an assistant principal, principal of Northview High School in Covina Valley. And then as Mike said, I became the director of curriculum and oversaw an area of the district in the Covina Valley before having the opportunity to come to Glendale.
And for the last two years, 2.5 years, you are the assistant superintendent?
Assistant superintendent, and basically our main responsibility is working directly and overseeing the school principals, working with the sites, overseeing the curriculum and the instruction that takes place. One of my responsibilities is working with the principals if any issues arise, also creating new programs. For example, we've overseen the expansion of the foreign language programs. We have the Strong program at Jefferson with the Armenian heritage. Just this last year we have added Italian. Next year we'll be offering Japanese as part of the dual immersion programs and heritage programs, which we value very greatly.
Yeah. Thank you for that brief background of yours. I think lots of people want to know Dr. Sheehan, and I think now they know better. And of course, in our community, specifically the Armenian community, I think our parents and our community members, they are always very interested about things that is happening in Glendale Unified School District. And as I have explained at the beginning, at the opening of our program, it is important for us because almost 1/3 of the students in Glendale Unified School Districts are Armenians. Whether they are Armenians immigrating to the United States or Armenians that they are born here and they grew up. So our community, it's education for our community is very important, and we are one of the best districts, the Unified School District in the California, I would say. And that's why I think all of us are very excited and very delighted to see how our district does. And I think it is a good occasion now that our viewers to get more familiar with you as somebody who is replacing Dr. Escalante. And we already know you for 2.5 years, so you're not a new face for us, but yes. I think it's also good for our viewers to get to know you. And thank you for that introduction. Now it's time for our commercial break, so we will be back right after the commercial. Stay with us. Ուրեմն շարունակում ենք մեր ծրագիրը, ինչպես ծրագրի առաջի մասը մենք ձեզի ներկայացրանք մեր նոր սուպերինտենդենտը, որ պիտի լինի հուլիս 1-ից, իհարկե մինչև հունիսի վերջը Դոկտոր Էսկալանտեն դեր պիտի շարունակի իրեն պաշտոնը, եւ հուլիս 1-ից ուրեմն այդ պաշտոնը հանձնում է Դոկտոր Ռիչարդ Շիհանին, որ կարծեմ ձեզնից ընդրանք որ ծանոթ չէին իր հետ, հիմա ավելի մոտիկից ծանոթացաք, եւ հիմա պիտի սկսենք խոսել district-ին կապ ունեցող տարբեր խնդիրներ, որը կարծում եմ մեր ամենից համար պիտի հետաքրքիր լինի. So I think what we want to do right now is talk about the state of our schools and state of our union. These days, anytime you open CNN, anytime you open any of our stations, they're talking about all this financial crisis. They're talking about how the economy is hurting lots of organizations, community members are getting unemployed. There are so many things going on right now. And as you mentioned, Glendale Unified School District, it's an organization of about $215 million budget. And then you have 3,000 employees working there. You have almost 27,000 students. It is a huge operation. And for fact, I can say, at least as a CPA who is well informed about the financial issues, it's not an easy job. And the way I understand, the money that you receive from Sacramento, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And not only that, what you're receiving right now, it's less than what you used to get even 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Every year it's getting a smaller amount. But there is no certain number even for the future. What I hear is that even you don't know 2 months down the line or 6 months down the line how much you're going to get. Now, when you sit down with your chief business officers and start working with those numbers on your budget, I don't know how you guys are doing. If you don't know what the income is going to be, so how you can make decisions about your cost. And then when you add on top of everything else that more than 90% of your budget, it's already been contracted and you already signed, so you made commitment already that how much you have to pay to teachers, so there is no room to play with. So if the money gets short, then what are you going to do? So first, I want to ask you, Dr. Escalante, you've been involved in preparing the budget for the last few years. Now, Dr. Sheehan was with you for the last 2.5 years. I first want to hear about your explanation of how things are right now. Then probably we'll go to Dr. Sheehan.
Let me just spend a minute and kind of frame to you how desperate things are right now. I've been in the business now for 38 years, and I've worked through those times that, early 90s, things were difficult. I was in education after the passage of Proposition 13, and those were difficult times. But it couldn't hold a candle to compare to the difficulties we're suffering right now. I heard Scott Plotkin, who is the executive director for the California School Boards Association, talk about, he asked his staff to go out and do some research on how difficult times are in comparison to the most difficult times our country has ever faced when dealing with funding public education. And he said that between the period of 1929 and 1935, a period of 6 years, public education lost about 25% of its income, or its revenues coming in. Over the period of the last 18 to 24 months, California education has lost about 20%. So the slide has been precipitous, the most drastic that we've seen in my career and anybody can ever remember. So it's been difficult for us to project for the future and where our district is going. You know, we've faced the declining enrollment, and you and I have had many, many conversations about the reductions. And
that's right.
At the district office and in our maintenance and operation, we had to reduce 115 positions over the period of the last 6 years. Well, I got to share with you, that is nothing compared to how drastic. Realize that that was about $10 million worth of reductions, ongoing reductions.
For declining students.
As a result of declining enrollment, yes, we lost about, so we made about $10 million worth of ongoing reductions to our budget in order to make it through from year to year. We went from a little less than 30,000 students to now, below 26,000 students. So that's difficult for us. But what we're seeing now is we've taken, what we receive dollars for is in what we refer to as a revenue limit. So many dollars per student. We have been reduced from 2007, 2008, revenues that look like 05, 06. That's how steep those revenues are. We've lost so much that, you know, and realize that we've made promises to employees. We've got ongoing costs. You know, everything escalates in costs that we've lost, and we're now spending about $20 million more than we're taking in. So we're going to have to do some tough things over the period of the next.
So every year you have $20 million.
We're spending $20
more
million
spending
than revenues coming in as a result. What's happened is those drastic reductions in revenues have caused us to, you know, since 07, 08, we've built in about $28 million of more expense as a result of increased costs for health benefits, increased costs for teacher salaries, employee salaries in general. So $28 million of additional cost, yet revenues that look more like 05, 06.
Okay, let me just ask you, I want to just go back to that, the reduction in enrollment. Now, that is not because you don't have space in your schools or because some people are not happy with our schools. No. I heard something about some families are moving out of Glendale because Glendale is becoming too expensive to live in. Is that what the reason is? Or?
It's both a decline in the number of school-age kids because there's been a dip in birth rate, but that's also combined with increased costs for housing in Glendale. So when those two things collide with one another, that's what's caused. And you know, it's probably 50–60% of the school districts in California are suffering declining enrollment. Okay. And we were able to work our way through that process, but it's nothing like what we're being forced, because we could always project what our revenue per student was, even though we lost a number of students. Now, it's more than that. The revenues that we receive per student has been drastically reduced. It's probably about $1,300 per student.
Yeah, Dr. Sheehan, would you also elaborate on what Dr. Escalante was saying about the reduction of the money that you receive from Sacramento per student during these last few years? Because sometimes some of our viewers probably, they wouldn't really comprehend that when we're saying that the money that you're getting, it's based on the number of the student multiplied by a fixed dollar amount.
Yes.
Now, if that number is decreasing, what does that mean? Even I didn't know sometimes that how much the money is and how much you're getting. But then I kept on hearing that we used to get, let's say, $5,000 something, and then now it's not $5,000, it's, let's say, $4,000. Would you explain that?
Sure. The district, all districts now are funded from the state pretty much. Used to be they were locally funded, and it was based out of property taxes. Now that has been removed and we're funded from the state. In 2007, 2008, the state revenues were about $102 billion. The next year they fell to $84 billion, so approximately a 20% cut in state revenues came into the coffers, so therefore, therefore the state didn't have the money to give to schools. And schools, because of Prop 98, make up approximately 40% of the budget. However, they've been approximately 60% of the cuts made by the state government. And so our portion per student has dropped over the last 3 years. And now at one time, I want to say we were a little bit above $6,000, and we've just fallen down to just under $5,000 per student.
It used to be about $6,000, it's under $5,000.
It should be significantly above the $6,000, and now that's where we were talking. We're down below those 05, 06 revenues.
If by statute we were paid what we're supposed to be receiving, that would be an additional $34 million to the district, and we would not be talking about the financial hard times that we are. And so one of the questions I've received coming in as the new superintendent, why would I want to be superintendent in this climate?
Yeah, that's what I said. What a timing.
And so because I mean, unfortunately, we are doing a reduction in force or a teacher layoff, because just this past December, the state was saying we would get $600,000 more per year, and then the January budget came out, and Governor Schwarzenegger actually cut our district $6 million a year. So we went from gaining 600,000 to losing 6 million. And so unfortunately, that has caused us to have to lay off and increase class size in our K-3 programs.
Yeah. So in other words, you don't have the money to spend. I mean, if you
Revenues
have,
aren't there.
So something that I don't want to be in your shoes anyway, but if you don't have the money, then how you're going to turn around and honor all the liabilities that you have? Because if you're signing contracts, and I think your contracts are all signed ahead of time, for a year ahead, right?
Correct.
So when you sign, so you're obligated already to some contractual terms. So what do you do? I mean, how can you, I mean, manage through all these things?
And that's in fact, it's really more than a year. We had to make the decision of who we were going to hire for next year by March 15th. So that's why most recently you've seen the information that's been in the newspaper regarding the teacher layoffs. We've had to lay off, we figure it's over 100 positions that will be laid off. We offered an early retirement incentive to see if there were some teachers who would, you know, leave and we could hire new teachers and save some of those positions. So right now we think we're right around 70 plus positions that will actually be lost. The great fear, and I'm really worried for Dick and the district next year, is we haven't seen what's called the May revision of the budget. So the governor will once again be presenting what he thinks next year's budget looks like sometime in May.
In May.
And realize the awkward part about that is we had to make a decision on our staffing in March, even though we don't know what the budget look like in May for the following year. So we're sitting and sort of, that's one of the reasons why we didn't have a choice but to make those layoff notices in an effort to protect the district, because if the district goes upside down financially, it's taken over by the state. And then the local school board and the superintendent and the chief business official no longer have control over the destiny of the district. And they'll still be forced to make those reductions.
And Dr. Escalante talked about the 115 positions we've cut out. We're looking at cutting another $1 million worth of salaries out of the district office staff.
You mean to reduce
Right.
some of the staff salary?
Correct.
Or is that something also you're thinking about it?
We are in the process of doing that. We have other people like Dr. Escalante who are retiring, and we're just not going to fill those positions. And through that, unfortunately, some of the work is going to have to be shared by the school sites.
That's right.
And so it'll have a direct impact on our school sites. But we're looking at every angle we can do to protect as many of the teachers' jobs as possible.
And I think that's what you did last year. I remember last year, before, sometimes in February or January last year, I think we had another show, which at that time, we had all this news coming from the neighboring districts, and we were talking about the Burbank, that how many layoffs they had. We were talking about the Los Angeles district, and even La Cañada. I think at that time we were talking that they were having some layoffs. Yeah. And I think one of the things that we were so proud for our city, the city of Glendale, was that we didn't have any layoffs. And so these things, the layoffs and pink slips, started from every other city's year before. During that time, Glendale didn't have that.
Actually, the district I came from started 2 years ago. They laid off teachers 2 years ago, actually for the last 2 years, and actually have closed 2 schools to save money. But we have no plans on closing any schools.
Yeah.
So.
And that's one thing that this is why I'm so proud of this district, because Lots of bad things started to happen 2 years ago, not in Glendale. Now you are at the point that apparently you don't have any other game to play. You don't have anything else to do. The only thing is just to cut the cost, and that's a tough thing. So it's a commercial time, and we'll be back. Just stay with us. One thing I want to bring about which one? Merhaba Sivas. Do you want to also talk something about, I was thinking about something that in a situation like this, I think everybody should stick together and help each other normally in a tough time. And right now, I think two bodies that they have to understand that it is important as a team is the teacher units, because they don't put up with all these things, right? They are saying, no, we want this, we want that. So do they play anything to help you guys? I mean, do you want to talk about that? Yeah?
They've offered further.
Yeah. So do you want to kind of make?
Let me kind of just frame why we've been able to get through the next couple of years and why we now. Then let's let Dick do this talk about.
Okay. Okay.
Negotiations.
Okay. Shadla, remember Padra Singh. Okay. Ուրեմն շարունակում ենք մեր ծրագիրը, ինչպես անդրադարձակ, մենք այս մեր ծրագրի երկրորդ մասը խոսում էինք Glendale Unified School District-ի իրավիճակը ֆինանսական տեսակետից, ինչպես ամեն դիմանում եք, ամենս այս օրերը ընտանիքից բռնած, ստիկ բիզնեսներից բռնած, մեծ բիզնեսներից բռնած, ամեն մեկս անցնում ենք շատ դժվար ժամեր, ֆինանսական դժվարությունների մեջ ենք, եւ district-ը, ինչպես ասեցին, 215 միլիոն դոլարանոց բյուջե ունի, բաջետն է իրեն, 3000 հոգի գործող եւ մոտորապես 26000 հոգի աշակերտ։ Ուրեմն այս ֆինանսական դժվարությունները նաեւ իրենք են անցնում այս օրերը եւ բարձրավոր այսպիսի մեծ դժվարությունների մեջ պիտի իրանք կարողանան վստահ եւ շատ հիմնական որոշումներ վերցնեն, որ ինչպես պիտի կարողանան այս օրերը անցկացնել։ Իրենց եկամուտը, որ State of California-ից է իրենց դրվում, քանի տարի առաջ ամեն մի աշակերտի համար մոտավորապես 6000-ի շուրջ է եղել։ Հիմա այդ ամեն մի աշակերտի համար այդ 6000 դոլարի մոտ մեկ թիվ, որ իրենք ստանում էին, ուրեմն district-ից, հիմա այդ թիվը 5000-ից էլ է պակսել։ Ուրեմն դու գերեվակայեք 27000 մոտավորապես ամեն մի աշակերտի համար մոտավորապես $1000 պակսել է իրենց եկամուտը։ Ուրեմն այդ գումարը պիտի ազդի իրենց ծախսերի վրա։ Եվ իրենց ծախսերը ինչ է, իրենց ծախսերը գործողորներն են, որ մոտավորապես 90%-ից ավել իրենց գործողներն են, ուսուցիչ ուսուցչուհիները եւ իրենց աշխատակազմը, ուրեմն մոտավորապես 10%-ի շուրջ է, որ բացի այդ ուրիշ ծախսեր են։ Ուրեմն իմ հարցումս իրենց այն է, որ ինչպես եք դուք կարողանում կառավարեք այս դժվար օրերին եւ այս district-ը կարողանաք դեպի առաջ տանեք, առանց այն որ դպրոց փակվի, առանց այն որ հսկայական փոփոխություններ լինի։ So խոսում ենք այդ նյութի շուրջ, որ հիմա կուզեմ շարունակել։ Just wanted to kind of explain also in Armenian the brief about what we're talking about. So as you mentioned, Dr. Escalante, it is at least 2 or 3 years that every other districts are facing to this problem. One district ahead of another one. And I remember that Glendale Unified School District, up to end of last year, we were fine. There were some modifications, some adjustments on the district level, not on the school level. Now you're projecting that you have to make some changes, which now you talked about it. Now, what was the reason that these last 2-3 years you were doing fine, and now you are on the corner of something that probably even you don't like to see it, but apparently you don't have any choice. You don't have any power to change the facts that it's on the ground.
Yeah, yes. Vahik, this is a very, very difficult decisions that have to be made right now. What's occurred is over the period of the last couple years, this year and last year, is the district made a decision that they would take and spend down reserve dollars that were put away for a difficult time. The concept was if you used these reserved dollars, just like your savings account at home, along with the federal bailout dollars, the ARA dollars, that could create a bridge until the economy turned around and our revenues would increase again. Unfortunately, when you start looking at all the newspapers and all the information that's out there regarding the turnaround of the economy, they say that we will not return to the same revenues that we had in 07, 08 until 2015.
15.
Yeah, so the difficulty is, we don't have enough reserve dollars to spend until this thing turns around. So the only thing we can do is force ourselves to make some very difficult decisions regarding some reductions, and we're really looking at employees to help us in that process. Just like employees, and there have been a lot of people out there in our community that have lost jobs and have to face some difficult times. Unemployment right now, is at 12.5%.
But
so,
isn't that kind of dangerous to start using your savings? I mean, if you're done with your savings, then what?
So and I'll let Dick comment a little bit more about that, but what we basically are doing is, yes, we will end up with substantial reserves this year. We will spend them down next year so that we'll probably only have about $7 million in the bank. And that $7 million is about equivalent to our 3% reserve. The following year, we go upside down about $18 million if we do nothing. And in the third year out, we actually go upside down about $50 million. So now we're trying to figure out and we're required by law to show a 3-year budget. So one of the things we're doing is that class size reduction piece. That's $5 million of savings that moves out for 3 years. So it's $15 million the third year out. So that reduces that $50 million shortfall to 35. And then, I'll let Dick comment on some of the reductions that we're, attempting to work with our Teachers Association, our Classified Association, and our managers. Because one thing that we have promised the board, and our recommendation is, whatever reduction one group faces, everybody is going to face the same.
So we're currently in negotiations with our Teachers Association and our classified associations. And we are trying first and foremost to bring health care under control like the rest of the nation. Because our teachers have foregone salary raises to maintain a very expensive health care plan, but unfortunately we have not received the revenues from the state, and so health care is going up anywhere from 10 to 15% a year, if not more. And so since we aren't getting any money from the state to pay for the ongoing cost of health care, we are trying to work with the Teachers Association to change the benefit plans. They have proposed some out-of-pocket expenses, but right now we pay $19,200 for a family PPO, and it's anticipated to go
per person?
For a
family?
For a family.
For one employee.
For one employee, and so we just cannot afford that anymore. And so we have not received the cost of living adjustments from the state, and so we as a district are trying to propose a health care cap at around $13,500 in hopes of reducing the out-of-pocket expenses the district's paying towards health care. So additionally, the teachers have proposed furlough days. Excuse me. And so the furlough days, we are looking at potentially 5 furlough days over the next 3 years, each year, for a total of 15. So basically teachers wouldn't be paid, but they wouldn't be working. And unfortunately that would shorten the school year right now by approximately 3 instructional days and then 2 non-instructional days. And that would be approximately a 2.5% to 3% savings to the district. So currently we're at impasse with our union, and so in a couple of weeks we'll be working with a mediator, hopefully to be moving towards an agreement.
So I think it will be very constructive to have teacher union and the district to work together hand to hand and kind of face all this, I would call it nightmare that you guys are going through. So I don't think that one person can handle this thing. So it has to be
It's a joint process.
Joint process. I think, and I'm sure that you will do all the best, and I think teachers union will do all the best, hopefully, so that we can pass this hard days that you have ahead of time. So I was very, very impressed all these years that, and I'm still impressed. I know that compared to other districts, that what they go through, still I think what the Glendale Unified School District is doing, it's unbelievable. And that, I think, is thanks to the leadership and the policymakers that we have, the Board of Education, that we have all experienced people sitting up there, and I'm sure that they know what they're doing. And probably it's something to congratulate also Miss Eva Luke, that I know these days she's one of the busiest person on the district, right, too.
She's the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine
and
that.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Through these processes, we're working as hard as we can to protect other programs. And so our fear is if we continue to get cuts from the state, we're going to have to look at other programs. But right now, as a district, we're very committed to the arts, to the music, to the language programs. We have the Heritage Program, the Armenian Heritage Program at Jefferson, and we're committed to keep that program in place, as we are with the Spanish language, the Korean, now the Japanese, German, Italian.
Yep.
We're actually looking at writing some grants to ensure that we protect the important programs that we have in the district.
Yeah, and yes.
And I might add, Vi, because those programs were put together for really two reasons. Is one of them, we know that they're good for students. I mean, we've seen incredible growth at those schools that have dual language programs. But we also know that they've attracted students from other districts.
Yeah.
And we have about 500 students, for example, from Los Angeles Unified School District that are here. And we want to keep those great students. And we're working with the parents to help to make sure that they will be here next year as part of those programs.
Yeah.
Because there's a great deal of concern going on, if you followed the media, about Los Angeles Unified releasing those students. And Dick and his team really have been working hard to make sure that Los Angeles Unified understands that those students have an incredible opportunity of learning in the dual language programs, and particularly the Armenian Heritage Program. So we want to make sure those programs stay open. As Dick said, we're committed.
Yeah, that's one of the things that the community enjoys it, and every time I meet some people, always one of the main question is that, are we going to have another Heritage Armenian program other than Thomas Jefferson? Or is this going to expand it to the other side of Glendale? And always it depends that what the request is. I mean, what the facilities are, or if there is any chance or any new students coming to the district. So hopefully you will be managed to keep all this program, because I know that it's very important, as you mentioned, for the community. Now I know it's a hard time. That's for sure. And I know that you're going to have a real challenging time ahead of you. But all I can say that we are all with you, and we will do everything possible and to make your life easier if we could. And I know that Dr. Escalante is always going to be there, and we're going to enjoy also his guidelines. And also, the good thing is that we have a very good board, and that board,
great
board, and I know that they know exactly how to move around and how to make that important decisions. I think now we are right on our end of our program, and I would like to make, if you have any closing comments, and then I will ask Dr. Sheehan to make his closing comments.
You know, when I think about the 6.5 years that I've been here in Glendale, and really not just as an employee of the district, but now really as a community member, it really has been a blessing to be here. So, you know, I want to go back and thank those board members who've been so important in guiding the district and guiding me in what needs to be done in this school district. So members, some of them who no longer are on the board because they've gone into retirement, like Chuck Sambar and Lina Harper. Yeah. So I want to make sure that they're recognized, and thank, you know, Mary Boger and Greg Kerkorian for the great work, and Joylene Wagner, and new board members like Christine Walters, who've all been, you know, just superb board members. So it's really all about, for me, is thank you for the great 6.5 years.
And we thank you for all these years. Dr. Sheehan.
As I said before, I'm very humbled because Glendale, one of the unique parts about Glendale is its diversity and how well all the kids and the parents and the community work towards ensuring that our kids are successful. It's a large melting pot, and I'm just very humbled that I have this opportunity. Glendale has a lot of great programs like the DNM, the Education Foundation, that come in and support the kids in a variety of ways. And I think the kids in Glendale get an outstanding education because of committed people like yourself that are willing to give back to the community. So we'd like to thank you.
Thank you also. We welcome you to your new position. You can count on our support, that always we are there. Whatever that it matters, we will be there with you. And I think that no matter what the difficult time is ahead, we will manage to go through it. And I don't have any doubt that we're going to manage it. But just we want also our viewers to understand that the level of the difficulty and the tough decisions that you have to make as a superintendent or as a board members. It's not something that you like to see all these things. I wish that the time was different and you would have made, instead of laying off, maybe you could hire 500 new teachers, administrators or principals. But if the time gets this tough, I think starting from a little community of like a family to up to the organization at the Glendale Unified School District or the city's organizations, they have to make some decisions. If not, at the month end, you don't have to pay money in your bank to make the payroll. So somebody has to make that decision. Somebody is going to look like a bad guy. But I think at the end, everybody will understand that you don't have any other choice. And that's the decisions that you have to make. And that's why you're getting paid. And all these years we enjoyed during the good times, and you make all the good decisions, and we survived. And now I think this is the time that you have to make those tough decisions. So thank you very much, Dr. Escalante. We really enjoyed having you as a superintendent. We're not going to let you go, that's for sure. We're still going to be very good friends. You are in Glendale, and we're going to work together in future. And Dr. Sheehan, as I said, our organization is going to stand with you all the way, and we will. I'm sure that we will enjoy also your leadership in this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice having you in our program. Thank you, Dr. Escalante. Thank you very much. Եվ այսպիսով կվերջացնենք այսօրվա մեր ծրագիրը, ձեզ կհանդիպենք եկող շաբաթ նույն ժամին։ Ստեյշուն ձեզ։